started this evening. We'll do roll call first. Bresnan?
Here.
Metzger?
Here.
Langenwalter?
Here.
Kramer?
Here.
Wilson?
Here.
Abernathy?
Here.
Keller? Myself here. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the good news.
Okay, just a little bit of good news there. Variety of things I noted and put this out on Facebook also, the $7.8 million plus in tax savings that we've done with bond refinancing since 2016. And we have a small one coming forth tonight that has come up through our finance committee. And then there are some links there for quick wins from our elementary and secondary collaboration and innovation teachers, things that early in the school year teachers have found to save time and engage students. I put a picture in there of the things that were bought with a $2,000 donation from Walmart for school supplies for the middle school. And then there's a picture that doesn't really do the event justice, but Emerson had a night glow art show that was quite a neat idea, and I think people really enjoyed. And then the last thing there was a notice that Indianola Middle School art teacher Lisa Smith has been named Middle School Art Educator Award for 2020. So that's what I have for you tonight.
All right. Thanks, Art. We'll now move to the consent agenda.
I can answer questions about the Wilson-Elsner contract. That is, we had a security breach. A third party does a lot of our banking for us, for the processing of it, and they had a breach. So we have cyber insurance through our insurance, EMC insurance. They then contract, if we want to, with this company that is kind of experts in cybercrime. So they will work with us, and basically, we should be held harmless, and it will be, Timberline is the company that we have, they would be paying the costs, or their insurance would be. So it's kind of the insurances will work it out, once the kind of subrogation type stuff. So if you have questions I can answer.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion by Ken to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. All right, and then we'll move on to the presentations.
Sarah was listed first there. Is she ready to go?
Sarah?
I'm Sarah Baker, and I'm the Special Programs Coordinator for the district, and I've been in this position since July. And I've been in the district this is year 9 for me. So I just wanted to touch base a little bit about the district special education delivery plan. You've got a copy of some notes in front of you. Just some history. In 2009, we were asked to develop a plan, and it gets reviewed every 5 years. And that plan really is just a communication to the state about how we do business for special education students. And so now it's reached that 5-year mark, so it's time to kind of look and see how we're doing, how we do business here. So before we do that though, I'd like to stop and kind of take stock of how we're doing. And so I've been meeting with the assessment coordinator through the ADA to take a look at that 2015 plan and just kind of develop some questions that we'll use to collect some data to see how we've been doing. The 3 questions we'll kind of really focus on is, are our entitled students making adequate yearly progress? Are they closing the gap between their peers? And then one of the things in the plan I talked about is identifying students that might have a disability and making sure they get services. So we'll kind of look at the identification rates that we have in our district too. Once we have a plan, we'll kind of meet again, the assessment coordinator, myself, and the regional director for the AEA, and take a look at what she's gathered, and then in the meantime, I've been collecting some data on like the way that we use associates, curriculum, and just some other things about the special program, and then we'll see if we've got enough data to move forward with a new plan, or if there's more questions that we want to ask. So I kind of just wanted to say hi, this is what I'm working on, and I'll be back in November to let you know how it goes.
Good, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Yeah, you too. Sorry for the echo.
Chantel is listed first, I guess. We have 3 teachers coming to give a view of class pages, and we have one from elementary, one from middle school, one from high school. That's a term we throw around a lot. You know, we just talk about class pages, but not everybody's had a chance to see them, get in there, and see what it's like. So Chantel Johansson first is a 5th grade teacher at Emerson.
Okay. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
So, you guys just want me to walk you through it and then you can have questions? Does that sound okay? Okay. So when you first log into Power School, this is kind of what it looks like. I don't know if all of you are familiar with it or not. And then if the students or parents come over to class pages, that's where our information is at. And you come up to the toggle and toggle to the different rooms. So let's start in the homeroom. So this page just generally has information on it. It has information on it for the students that are in class and the students that are out of class. So it has information on our newsletter, week at a glance. There's class photos. I usually have a class picture up there, but I changed it for privacy. Information for parents, websites that we use. And then over on the left, there's our different links that we have set up. The ones that are red are the active ones. So virtual learner Zoom link, so if we click on this, here's the link for my class. It's a reoccurring one every day at 2:30, and then the special Zoom links are in this calendar. Let me get the October one up there. Do you guys have any questions so far about the home page? Okay, and then over here it says students' passwords. Those aren't actually the kids' passwords. That's just how to access their passwords. And then this is just stuff about in the classroom. And then if we go to, let's go to math. Here is the math information for the week. Over here is our student math book. This has been so nice because the hardest thing I think definitely about the online teaching is taking in our materials that we currently have and making them available digitally for the kids. It takes a lot of time and like scanning stuff in and turning it into PDFs. So having these already done was super nice. Then there's resources over here, the things we're working on during the week. A lot of times with our math, we do a lot of the teaching during the Zoom meeting because math is kind of a tricky topic to record, and it goes better when there's 2 ways of communication. So, and if we go to reading, here's kind of our week at a glance. You can see Monday, and there's links to videos for the lessons. Tuesday, Wednesday we do writing.
Chantel, would this be very similar then for the other 5th grade sections in Emerson?
So Adam and Jenny and I's are all exactly the same. So when we set them up, we set up our pages. Well, I kind of set mine up over the summer because I was, I learned about it earlier about the templates that we have to use, and then Adam and Jenny and I all set ours up the same. But our week at a glance has the same information. So we have a Google Doc going. So this was this week's. And then we all contribute to it. So one thing about Power School that's kind of cumbersome is our pages don't talk to each other. So for example, I can't do stuff on my page and have it change on Adam and Jenny's page. They have to go in and put it in on their own. So we do everything on a Google Doc, and then we just copy and paste it into our week at a glance on either Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday morning. And then there's other resources over here. The standards are all on there. And then science and social studies is very similar. But all of our pages at Emerson, the 5th grade pages all look the same.
You guys do any like hard copies for some students?
Yes, actually we send a lot of hard copies home. We have a couple of kiddos who aren't coming in and getting hard copies, but we are also sending hard copies home to a lot of friends. Like the math books, we sent home copies of the math books, and then a lot of times we'll have kids like take a picture of their work and send it to us, because that's kind of a tricky topic to, or subject to get work back on via the computer. So yeah, we do send hard copy home. Or they bring it back and then we check it. Do you guys have any questions for me? Or anything else you want to see on here?
How many online learners do you have now?
In 5th grade, we have 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of feedback are you getting from the parents? Is this meeting their needs?
A couple of the families, I would say, definitely are active. Some of our friends are not as active as we would like them to be.
When you say 4, do you mean 4 in just your class or all 5th grade?
4 in the grade level.
At Emerson?
Yes, in 5th grade at
And
Emerson.
Emerson is our lowest percentage of remote learners, right around 8%.
We've had a couple of kiddos, which is kind of nice that, it's nice that we run this, because we've had a couple of kids pop in and out based on their family's needs at certain times. They've been able to stay home and just do this stuff while they needed to stay home, and then they were able to come back when they were able to come back, and that's been really handy.
So currently, do the 3 teachers then, the 5th grade teachers, work together to put together a plan for those remote learners, or do you do it yourself?
We work together. We have our Google Doc that we all contribute to.
You have a what?
A Google document.
Oh.
It's right here. So like this is this week's Google Doc. Like we worked on this and we got all of our plans ready, and then put them on the week at a glance on Monday morning.
So all 3 teachers basically send the same hard copies home to those,
Yes.
even though in different classes, they get the same work material, right?
Yes.
Well, complements a high level of organization and also have it look very pleasing. You know, if I was doing something like this, I could probably organize material on lists, but not have it look at all attractive, so.
Thank you. We try to be. It makes it easier to manage.
How much extra time is this taking you every week?
I would say we pretty consistently work from when we get out at about we get in from recess duty parking lot at about 1:40, and we pretty consistently work until about 3:20, and then I take it home over the weekend and work on it a couple hours here or there. So I would say if you total up the week, that's what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I would say 13 or 14 hours a week. So we want to do a good job, and we want them to get the same materials and lessons that we use in class. So like the stuff that's all linked here are stuff that we're using with our kids in class too.
Thank you, Chantel, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did a nice job.
Right, can I come plug? All right, have a good evening, guys.
Mitch Clocky is a 7th grade teacher, 7th grade science teacher for us. Maybe look at
Oh, sorry.
a middle school example. Thanks for coming in tonight. Of course. Let's plug in here and then.
Make sure everything works out every day. There you go. All right, guys. So, hi, my name is Mitch Clucky. I teach 7th grade science at the middle school. And I'm just going to go and show you here a few things about my class page and a few things I do with my remote learners and my in-person learners, too. If you've got any questions, feel free to stop me, and I have no problem stopping in the middle of this. But What you're seeing right here, I guess, is the very beginning of my class page. So when students would log into PowerSchool and click on Mr. Clucky's Master Science class, this is where they would kind of get spun off to. This welcome page is something we worked a lot on, I guess, this summer. You'll see Kyle here in a second and a few other teachers, but this is something we worked on to make sure that in the middle school level and the high school level, this was pretty consistent across, I guess, all teachers in all content areas. So I'll have an announcement block here where I can kick out announcements to parents and students. That also sends them an email as well to get that information to them in case, let's say, it's a quick message. One instance I always think about is if we have to suddenly cancel Zoom due to PD, or if I need them to bring materials for that day in class, I might kick out an announcement about that right away in the morning that students might get when they get to their first classes. In addition, I've got a week at a glance here where I try to show students what content's coming up and what things to be looking forward to. Unfortunately, with the way that the middle school calendar works a little bit, it's not as accurate for my remote learners as it is for my in-person learners, just due to the varying schedules and things. But for the most part, the students can see, I guess, what's coming up in class. So you'll see here I've got day 14, 15, and then 17 content coming up. It's repeated so many times because of the different sections I have, but on a student end, they would only see what's showing up for their sections. The nice thing about the week at a glance is that I can put events and assignments and things in there, and it's also available on their calendar too. So if I click onto that calendar tab, students have this as well, but they can see a collection of all the events and all the things going on for the entire month. Again, theirs will be much cleaner than this, but because of all my sections, that's what mine will look like. But students can see what content's coming up. If I click on a specific content day, like say, for instance, I'll click on day 15 from last week, Thursday. If they click on that, they can see a learning plan of what's going on in that class that day. This is where they can go to use different bell ringers. They can use the links. I'm going to click on those things when they're in class. And then that is also in another spot as well. So not only do I have that on my main page, but I've organized, I guess, my content and things that students are going to be doing in class into units here on the side. So where I've got unit 1 here, that will be a drop-down menu. And students can click on the specific unit day for that task. So I'll go ahead and click on, well, let's just go to this day 14 tab right here. When students click on that, I kind of have it divided into 2 spots. So it's kind of like a 2-column layout. So on the right side, I usually put my in-person learner tasks. And then on the left side, I have my remote learning tasks. I like that because it allows students, I guess, to quickly see and jump between each side. What I've been telling my students that are absent today is if you're gone, right, let's work on the remote learning tasks. And for the most part, my content's been pretty nicely, I guess, aligned between remote and in-person, which has been pretty nice. Now, it is a little bit different when you put something digitally than it is in person. But for my remote learners, there's an access to, I guess, a video on YouTube to go through the directions of, I guess, how to go through the tasks, more of those procedural things, whereas the second one, a simple Google Hyperdoc where if they click on it, it shows them what are the instructions for that day, and I've got it broken out by tasks similar to the in-person learners, and then directions off to the side that we'll go through. So they can kind of work through this as how many tasks do I have today, what are those specific directions, there's links embedded in there, and then again I have an instructional video of if we need more assistance of how to work through this document, those specific tasks, that's how that would be directed, or I guess displayed as well. You guys have any questions so far? Or anything that I haven't hit on that you guys would like to see still?
Are you routinely putting up instructional videos, or is that for labs, or?
Yep, so when it comes through to these tasks, what I'm usually doing is creating instructional videos, mostly through either my own Screencastify videos of me teaching the content either in front of the class or after school on my own with my partner teacher. Melissa is the partner teacher across the hallway. We work together a lot so that it's not her learners and my learners, but we're kind of using the same stuff for both of our learners, so it's almost our learners together. So it's splitting the load because we're doing the same things in our classes, why not do that with our students as well? And lighten the load a little bit for both of us. So you'll see throughout these tasks, we work on these together. We take turns filming ourselves with the videos. In fact, sometimes we're in the videos together teaching the content, which is nice because we don't get a chance to do that as often. And it opens up a lot more options with that. But most of them are instructional videos that I put through Edpuzzle, where I can kind of track student progress in there and have them have embedded questions in there so I can have discussion type questions, or I can have them vote in a poll, or I can have them have like a quick note to make sure they pay attention to this part. So it's mostly like, if I was in the classroom where I'd be doing that in a discussion with my students, I can do that through a video as well and still have that instructional piece take place.
So that would be for both in-person and remote learners?
Correct. So whereas the remote learners are getting it through a video that's been uploaded through YouTube and on Edpuzzle, the in-person learners are getting it through a discussion in the classroom.
many remote learners do you guys have, the two of you?
Yes, so I know for me right now, I've been as high as 22, and now I think I'm down to 17 or 16. Melissa, I believe she's still in that same range in the teens as well, the upper teens. So together we're at, I think, somewhere near 30, almost 40 students.
Do you find everybody tunes in most days?
It depends on the day. I've learned Fridays are difficult, yeah, as it is for most adults. Fridays are tough, and I've learned that with students as well. And with the shortened schedules, I try to lighten loads on Fridays, just understanding that we're going into a weekend. The students in class are getting 30 minutes with me in person, so I'm trying to mirror that with the students at home, that if I'm not doing much with my in-person learners that day in terms of cognitive load, I want to mirror that with my students that are at home as well. But it just depends. I know my students have really improved. I was just in a Zoom meeting today where I actually had, I think, almost 75% of my students in that online learning Zoom, which was a high for me. And that gets me really excited because I think of all the discussions that can take place in it that we had today too, which don't happen unless the students are there.
Do you also send hard copies home too then?
I have not. So right now, I have been primarily the digital things. I have not gotten any requests through hard copies either. I know a few students have had some digital technical difficulties in terms of like loading speeds, but I think I got confirmation today that there might be a digital or a hotspot going home to that student, and that was primarily with, I think, the Zoom schedule with loading the Zoom. But as far as what's really nice about these HyperDocs is that these, I think, have loaded for everybody, and there's been no issues with that. And the feedback I've heard from students and parents is that this has been a nice, organized way that they know where to go to. It's set up nicely. It's like this each week. In addition, I'm emailing this out to students too, so that there's multiple places they can see it, where if there's a question, it's in multiple sources.
So you said you have about 40 in between. Is everybody being active online and getting stuff done and back to you?
For the most part, yes. I think it depends, again, on the student, on the specific situation. But I think when we're tracking progress, what I'm looking for is, are they active in some of those tasks? Are they doing the majority of those tasks? I think sometimes it's expecting a lot to have them do all the tasks and do it to a perfect T. I'm looking for, are they accessing it? Are they trying? Are they attempting? Because I think it is tough when you haven't been a virtual learner to go home and do that. I think about me when I'm taking online classes at home. It's very hard, and I'm 25 years old. So that they're attempting it, they're working towards it, they're asking questions. I'm marking that down as progress. And for the most part, I think I've had all my learners except for one or two that have been struggling with getting that progress made each week.
What about the hands-on things that you try to do? What happens with that?
Difficult. It is difficult, especially in a science context. I was working some planning for the future today, and what's nice is that when I'm working in some of these educational, I guess when I'm thinking about we're going to dissect, let's say, a speaker in the next few weeks, again, putting that into an Edpuzzle video, while I don't like them watching videos all the time, I can also at least embed my questions in there, so it's almost like I'm asking those questions. And then some of those things I can do through Zoom after school. So I know, we did a cricket lab a while back where we did observations. I can bring that cricket onto the Zoom and we can make observations and talk through, all right, what are we noticing, how we want to plan an investigation around this. They're still seeing that same thing as the students would in the classroom. They're just not getting the chance to interact with that. So it's been different. It's been difficult, but I think some of the situations we're doing our best with what we have to make that work.
No, it's not perfect. I know. I just was curious. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So with that many students, that seems like a lot of hours you're putting in. Is that taking some home at night, staying later at school, weekends? I'm just curious. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
30, 40 kids.
I've been very blessed in that I've set a really good routine. I think starting even into last year in the past, that I don't bring work home with me. I've really tried sticking by that, and some days I am here later than others, but I think this year I've always been out no later than, I think at the latest 5 o'clock some days, at the earliest, right when it hits 4 o'clock, I'm on my way out. So for the most part, it is unfortunate that I think most of my effort and energy is towards the remote learners right now, because I want to make sure it's as best as I can for them, because I know how struggling it is for them to be at home and to go through all that, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to make sure I'm putting my best foot forward so they can at least access and do their best, and it's not a teacher problem. I think sometimes it does detract from my ability in the classroom, which I have noted, and what's nice is when I'm doing them as close together as possible, that I'm trying to keep it in sync, the work I'm putting in the remote is also the same work I would be doing for an in-person student. So it's not in doing this and then I have to do something completely in addition to this. It's, for the most part, as in line as possible.
Thank you very much, Mitch, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a ton.
Definitely. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. I know I'm not too far over here to the right, so you can find me there most days, probably till about, hopefully not this time. But
Thank you.
We have Kyle Burke from the high school coming in here. Kyle's humanities background, also special ed. Thank you for waiting. Somebody drew the short straw, just as we went elementary, middle school, high school.
Hey, it's the natural order of things happening I can play. And you said it was Maine, right?
Yes. We are getting a little bit of feedback tonight, so.
I will try and stand back. I'm pretty loud. And so this is the class pages that I've developed over the high school. This is good so I can see a little bit. Make that bigger. Every time the kids come in, I try and, this is the first page that hits them. You get my beautiful face right there. There's an announcements feature that I use, try to do at least once a week. What that does is you get to post something like an announcement that the kids need to know, and it pops up in a new box that they have to X out of before they can go onto the site as well too. Instead of using the Power School calendar, I have embedded my Google Calendar, which is kind of similar from what I think Mitch was talking about from what I heard outside. And so that's just kind of that first page that we developed as well too. In terms of remote users versus in-school users, I try to keep it the same as similar as possible, but I do have a separate page for, again, sorry, trying to get the feedback away.
That's about anywhere you stand.
I'm sorry, I'm loud.
No, that's okay.
No, it's not.
All right. So I do have a remote users page as well that very similarly echoes what I'm doing in the classroom. So if we can kind of click on that first unit here, and I've set this up by date. And so today was test day. We can zoom in there a little bit. So their first act was to go log into turnitin.com, set up their account, and then since they are remote learners, my normal kids were doing a kind of multiple choice example test as well too, which is not as feasible for at-home learners since they do have opportunity to use other electronics and stuff like that. So it went with more of kind of an authentic assessment, giving them the essay question, access to all their materials, and was just trying to assess them on how they could think, and gave them the outline to do that as well too. And my in-school learners did have a bit of this, even as I tell the online learners here, I'm going to be a little bit rougher on you guys because you have access to all these different materials at home as well too. But in terms of doing it, I update my checklist on either Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. And it's got, again, very similar activities to what we actually are doing in the classroom. Like this was the debate that we started developing and using some more technologies like Flipgrid and different sites in order for things that we would do in person. The kids can still either have their face in and their voice, but they can, if they are choosing not to do that, then they can block it out with emojis and stuff like that and still participate as well too. So it kind of addresses some of the privacy concerns. I guess open to questions or.
When you, I noticed a few tests in here you preferred to test. Are they returned to you electronically?
Yes. But that's what I established the Turnitin.com thing that checks for plagiarism, and our English department uses it as well too to make sure that it is student original work.
How many remote learners do you have?
In my 3 gen ed classes, I have 9 remote users.
And do you have to send any hard copy? Have they requested any hard copy, or are they pretty much?
One kid who was in quarantine did request a hard copy, but when they came back, they brought it back as well. And with TCI, the textbook that the social studies department uses, it is very kind of intuitive to get in and out of from electronic sources to paper sources as well too.
So was it hard for was it hard for your quarantine person to go remote and then jump back in live? Was there a lag there where?
It was pretty seamless.
How many for special ed?
For at risk, I'm at about 8.
And so for your gen ed, is that just you coming up with everything for those 9 students, or another teacher works with you? Or?
There is one other person who teaches one section of this class, and I teach 3 sections of it, so I'm kind of the point person on that.
Okay.
So I share my stuff with the other person who teaches the courses.
How about the other side, the at-risk side?
It's usually much more individual level at that point, where we try and focus and build the connections with them, hopefully over Zoom, email, parent communication as well.
So is this the same 3 lessons? I mean, you don't change the lessons for those 3 classes, are they?
Yeah, no, it is the same 3 lessons, sorry, I got excited. Yeah, it is the same 3 lessons for
So
each.
how many different lessons do you prepare every day then?
Every day, since we're on the block schedule, I have 2 on Tuesday, 1 on Monday, and so I refresh it every Monday in terms of getting them to make sure that they're at least echoing the same day, and one class isn't getting too ahead of the other one, which is fun with things like Labor Day and evening times as well too. So that's been a little bit of a jump.
Is any of your special needs ones, do they have one-on-one that'll Zoom with them
We try.
and help? Okay.
Yeah, and we have specific time periods for that when our student services class period. So we have over 20 minutes a day that we can get to talk to them, talk about what their schedule's looking like, what their other classes are looking like, what's on their kind of plates, but also just check out with them to make sure that they're
Doing okay?
doing okay.
How much time are you spending then each week doing your remote learning tasks?
Again, since I try and echo as close as possible, it is similar, but just because of the added extra effort I was at school from 4 to 6:30 last night, and didn't get to bed till about 11:30, trying to grade papers and kind of set things up as well too. And again, this is, online learning is so front-loaded, is that you have to plan and build everything at the front end of it, where coming back to the end of it, the grading and the assessment portion, you would think would probably take a little bit off, and there are some things like that, like automatic checking tests and having the rubrics available for you, but it's still, it's a lot of time, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, and this goes for Chantel and Mitch and all the teachers. I just want to say thanks. I'm absolutely amazed at the effort all the teachers have put in, especially early on. This literally was not happening a year ago. It's a lot like trying to build an airplane in the sky. And as a parent and listening to you guys and seeing these pages, I'm absolutely blown away with your guys' effort. So please take it back to your colleagues. I mean, it's amazing the work you guys are doing, and it's really appreciated.
And I just want to point out that we wouldn't be doing this without each other. I mean, the high school's a little bit luckier since I was one of the first people to go through the blunt flip training. This stuff wasn't necessarily as new to me as, say, some things that the middle school, especially the elementary school teachers are doing as well too. I rarely used this stuff before, where I already have a class built that I'm adding new stuff into, which is a much easier. So I wholeheartedly appreciate the job that elementary and middle school teachers are doing.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Let's see, we will move on to letter G, number 1, the return to learn plan.
Just want to give you a few updates in several different aspects of return to learn. One, in food service, just wanted to update you. I had shared as good news a while back that the food service department had made available healthy kind of group classroom treats. They call it classroom catering. Abby told me this afternoon she's had over 70 requests for that since they started that August 31st. So people are really appreciating taking advantage of that. I also put out on Facebook another, I guess, little innovation. There are a couple of breakfast kiosks at the high school that they have placed, basically mobile breakfast stations in high traffic areas, which has really proven to be popular and effective at the high school. And then just generally, since we've publicized that the federal food program is being extended through the end of this December or until the money ran out, people are having increased levels of participation, both breakfast and lunch. And of course, breakfast and lunch is free for everybody right now. And kind of as they did this summer, our transportation department has stepped up and helped. You know, they helped with the grab and go this summer. While we're a little bit understaffed in terms of the elementary kitchen help, being able to prepare, package, and deliver as the numbers have gone up. So the transportation department has stepped up and has helped them deliver too. So just a lot of good things happening in the food service department I wanted to share tonight. A little bit, I know you've been hearing some things about the hybrid learning plan review, both on the parent level and teacher level. And as I mentioned when I said we were going to be starting looking at this, the very first night that the board approved our instructional model, if you would go back and look through the bullet points, it said we'll come back around and do a review. So I think some people, you know, anytime you bring up a topic, they go from 0 to 60 pretty quickly, or you know, think a change is right around the corner. That's not the intention. But we have had this past week we had building meetings. Sorry about that. This past week we had staff meetings in each building, kind of listening post, and talked about different things as they relate to face-to-face and online instruction. And we're working on getting that feedback kind of all together and processed. And then we also have a remote learner survey active right now. We sent that out last Friday. That's open through Friday to try to get the, you know, the home perspective, the people who are using the remote learning right now. And I think one thing we're seeing, one initial early indication, is just a lot of comments about the strengths of what we're doing in terms of trying to provide options for families. As you've seen tonight, teachers working really hard, you know, on the remote aspect as well as in person, and then just really making good use of the extra time we've been able to provide. So those strengths are coming through. I'll continue to report to you as we get survey results, as we get feedback from staff compiled, and we'll just talk as we go along, and we'll see what happens with the virus as well. So.
As you talk, and as we talk about the load on the teachers, which is definitely different, there's no question about that, and probably more, is there any way we can provide additional help to them, hiring some people part-time for 2 or 3 months? Is that realistic? I firmly believe the money's there. You know, that we can do that. Is there anything we can do, bearing in mind maybe there isn't because it's so individualized, but
yeah.
If there is, I'd like to see if we could do it.
Okay. That's something we'll include in the conversation for sure. I think it's tough. It is, as you heard these teachers talking, it's kind of tough to just come in and just do it. I mean, there's so much learning involved too, as you heard some of the different technologies.
But the help of putting things on and everything, when you have a similar package, like you have with the class pages and all of that,
yeah.
And once a person gets in it, it's, you know, it's pretty much, you know,
Yeah,
rather do it for somebody else, you know, all of that.
If it were a matter of just trying to take some upload time away or something potentially, yeah. I don't know. That's worth talking about. I've got a few other COVID-related items just to mention. Wanted to have Mimi speak for just a minute about a dashboard that she's gotten put up on the website, make people aware of it, just where it is and what it is.
Yeah, it's under the announcement section. It's just a dashboard that tells how many student positives and how many staff positives, and then the Warren County positivity rate, and then the last date that I updated. So I've been updating it on Mondays. It's been pretty consistent. The rules with posting that kind of information is if you have less than 5, you have to say less than 5. You can't say 2 or 4. You have to say less than 5. If you have 6, 7, or 8, you can say 6, 7, or 8. But if it's less than that, so we have less than 5 student positives right now and less than 5 staff positives right now.
Thank you. And I think that's great to update them weekly, because then it can just be a quick touch point for people. They can go there and you know, see see current information. So, one other thing I just wanted to mention, I think you probably know this, you know, playing it back as we've had different situations throughout the year. I don't know if this was always clear, but we had, I say we, superintendents had very clearly and forcefully reinforced for us, reminding us that it's public health that has the statutory authority to determine quarantine. And I know you've heard different things like, well, why don't you just decide that, decide this, decide that. Now, we work very cooperatively in terms of contact tracing, trying to figure out, you know, what exactly happened. But when it comes right down to a quarantine decision, that is a public health decision. Now, another really interesting wrinkle that I just heard this afternoon, we heard from Warren County Public Health that the Iowa Department of Public Health just gave new guidance to the counties in terms of contact tracing. And the message said, starting tomorrow, if there is a positive COVID student or staff member, and those who are in close contact, if they were wearing a mask over their nose and mouth throughout that period of contact, and if the person who was positive was wearing a mask over their nose and mouth, now they would not be considered in close contact and would not automatically be quarantined. And that's a 180 from what we've been doing. But I think people have been asking all along, what's the point of the mask if it doesn't matter with contact tracing? Well, now the public Department of Health is saying it does matter. Now, that person who was exposed but masked would still have to be not showing symptoms and not testing positive to not be quarantined. But that'll be a change and could impact some students who are currently quarantined even, I think. So I gave administrators a heads up on that this afternoon, shortly after I found out. So that's kind of a big change. I mean, there's been changes in guidance as we've gone along, but this is a big change.
Will public health contact those students and families that are currently in quarantine that it may change for, or is that this district's responsibility?
Well, when I talked through with Mr. Seaversman, I said this would probably be an extra step, but I encouraged the principal to reach out and ask those questions of the quarantined students and families. If they were in close contact, were you masked? Have you had any symptoms? And then I suggested then that he get back to public health with that list of quarantined students, because as I said earlier, they have the statutory authority to lift it. We don't. So they are going to have to be involved in that, but I think our principals can help do some of the legwork and some of the calling and questioning, and then communicate with public health, and then make that final determination to the families.
So if a family finds out, like on a Saturday or Sunday, that their student is, or their child is positive, do they contact us on a Saturday and Sunday so we let people know by Monday that there's an issue?
Well, I think that could vary. I mean, I can't speak for every family. I do know our original case, the first positive we had, we did find out through the family, and Mr. Morris and I were working on that over the weekend.
So, but is there a number for them to call if they find out, like, if I find out at 8 o'clock Saturday morning, is there someone that is designated to take that phone call and say, okay, then that class would need to be quarantined, so they know?
I mean, there are definitely ways for people to get in touch. Now, I don't know, maybe you can help me with that. I don't know that we have to get a 24-hour hotline number.
I'm not sure that
anything.
we've published anything. I know we've told staff and administrators that you and I are the contacts available anytime, so.
I just know I've had parents ask me that,
we
is
do have,
what if it happens on a Saturday or Sunday and?
We do have through the website, anybody can contact us with anything, and it comes out as an email, but they put in their name and their number and the situation. I get those at all different times for all different topics, so that'd be one good. What's that called on the website, Ray? Where they would make a contact.
I think it's just contact us.
Contact us, okay.
I know that the cases that we've had so far have come through the building administrator. That's who typically lets us know, not that we've had a ton, but.
Right. And I think, people are pretty attuned to who their building principal is. For most most parents, that's a pretty natural contact,
Right.
and then they usually call me and meet me.
Art, have you run into, or do we know if any other districts are close to what we've done in the sense of all students 5 days a week, 90-day release, yada, yada?
Yeah, the 90-minute release is pretty unique. And I've actually been contacted by people from different districts about that. There are schools who are in person 5 days a week, and in some cases, they're handling their remote learning different ways. I know a couple districts that are using a canned product for that. It's just, they just kind of are outsourcing their remote learning. I know an area district that does try to just basically Zoom people into the classroom on an ongoing basis. I think Mrs. Duran, I think you ran across one other district not so far away that was doing something very similar to us.
It's possibly Perry
Yeah.
is doing something similar to that.
Have you encountered others that have the kind of daily designated time for remote learning out of day like we are?
Because we didn't have access to that survey the superintendents filled out in terms of what theirs ended up looking like. Okay. So.
Yeah, but as I have visited in the metro area, larger schools, the majority are doing a hybrid, and what's very common is 2 days on, for one group, and every other Wednesday, like Monday, Tuesday, and every other Wednesday, one student would attend, and every other Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, another student would attend in person. That meets the governor's requirement of it being 50% in person. So there's quite a bit of that.
Who's doing the remote learning then?
I don't know about that for sure.
I know some schools who's doing the remote learning. I'm just curious as to what Ankeny.
Yeah, I know Ankeny does have designated remote teachers. There's a teacher who taught for us last year that I know is the remote teacher for a grade level in Ankeny. It's interesting. I think the numbers and the school size has a lot to do with the model that's been chosen.
Yeah, although Carlisle has the smaller than us, and they've used a different.
Yeah, I do believe they're in that particular district too. They are repurposing some like reading support teachers, for example, which
Some of their coaches, some of the remote. They've actually hired a couple subs full time to do some of it, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and I think something else you need to be thinking about as our assessments are rolling in, our full fast reading scores, fast math scores. I would be very hesitant to repurpose our interventionist at a time when the learning gaps are going to be very evident.
But I mean, if we go back, full time, the teachers can't do that remote learning anymore. I mean, that's just too much to ask for them.
Well, and again, that's totally the reason for talking. And we put out different scenarios in these listening posts, and scenario A was status quo, what we're doing currently. So I want to dispel that myth if anybody thinks that there's a huge push just to say,
yeah, because that's getting lots of emails. Yeah.
Tomorrow we're going back full time. For both reasons. For one, we do have between, all of our 6 buildings, we have between 8 and 15% of our students remotely learning. Okay, that's a pretty sizable number of students, and even if it were fewer students, I want to serve them well. And then another concern, as you're saying, is, and I will say one thing that came out of this was it affirmed that we had a pretty good plan to begin with, and I'm getting lots of questions about our plan because we do have a designated time. And I can tell you, pre-COVID, if you would ask any teacher, what do you need? They were going to say, I could use some more time. So this has definitely exacerbated that, has really put a point on it. So
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh, we're 100% aware of that. I don't think there's probably any job in education, or most jobs outside too, that haven't really been impacted, and people have had to do things differently. I think, and admittedly, these people who came tonight to present to you have a good handle on the remote learning. But I heard at least 2 of the 3 say right up front, I'm trying to make my remote learning, my in-class learning as close as possible, you know, in content and approach. Now that's very tough to do with the drop of a hat. I mean, there's all kinds of learning and skill building going on with our staff right now.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're gonna change, you know, we need to plan at least far enough ahead because I mean, you can't as teachers teach school all day and then do remote.
That's why we're talking about it now.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah, I know.
You know, if there were a change, this would never be a change I would recommend springing on people if we are making a change. You know, we're in the conversation, exploration stage right now, and determination might very well be, you know, what we're doing about as well as we can in this COVID environment, and, you know, that may be what we find, so.
Just an interesting fact from what I do, we've had 123 new families access services that they've never ever had to access before. And out of those, 86% of them attend our school district. And when asked why, when we have conversations with them, a lot of it is kids staying home or coming home to empty homes, financial strain of only working part-time now because having to be home for the kids at 1 or 1:30. So I'm very much seeing the stress that it's putting on our families from getting out at 1:30 and how much that has impacted workplace environment and careers that way too. But I agree with everyone else too. We have to start really looking outside the box and brainstorming as to how do we give our teachers some relief? Who can we really look to lead some of these online classes across the district so the teachers can stay in person? And how can we start to alleviate some of the financial burden and the childcare burden and the other burdens that are hitting our families by only having the kids in school from?
I know
So it's just like Art said, the brainstorming that has to start happening to look at all different avenues of it, and of course what our numbers are going to be like in a couple of weeks.
I think the after-school middle thing is a good thing. I've heard a lot of middle school parents say that at least they're there studying and getting stuff done so they can pick them up when they don't have to take as much time off from work to come get their kids.
For what?
After school,
if they're in activities.
That's only if they're in activity.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So that includes no 6th graders. Because they can't, right?
Oh, that's right.
Because they can't be in any of those.
So does the rest of the teachers, like at the middle school or high school, hear Kyle talk and Mitch talk, like you said, they seem to really have a plan together, and it probably took a while to get to that, but do they know those individuals have a plan and may have some answers for maybe a teacher that's struggling or a teacher that's, I can't seem to figure this out, or do they know that, like, is there somebody that says, hey, I've got this if you need help?
Yeah, well, we have, and I might ask Mr. Ron to jump in too, but we have within our TLC, we have collaboration innovation teachers, which that's a structure that's built for those kind of exemplars, those teachers, you know, who have tried new things, who might be a little farther ahead.
Is that what they are?
I don't know if those 2 gentlemen are or not.
I have to go back to the list, but all 3 are in leadership, TLC leadership positions. I know Chantel, I think, and Mitch. Actually, all 3 have been seen on the year. I think Kyle was a TLC leader last year.
But I know that our principals are prioritizing this in staff development too, and anytime we have. And, you know, at the elementary level, there's a great deal of grade level collaboration. That's kind of a natural thing they have built in when you have, you know, 3 5th grade teachers, for example, at Emerson. They're collaborating all the time. It gets a little bit tougher at the high school level. You heard Mr. Berg say, for example, he has 3 sections of one class and then somebody else just has 1.
Right.
And so if you're teaching a singleton, or if you do have 3 or 4 different preps in a day, or, you know, you're the only AP physics teacher or whatever, pick the class, you know, it gets tougher, I think. And I also think that you get a lot of competition for the Zoom time too. You know, we've talked about not wanting to overdo the screen time for students, but also we really need to use that time well. Is there anything else you want to add?
That the instructional coaches are doing sessions with them. I know that Ally and some of the teachers are doing pop-up sessions. And we're right now refining for October 8th, some technology station work with the elementary, two of the elementaries. So we want it to be ongoing and not have to just wait. We also have the teacher online resources site where we have different resources and videos. And we're going to start collecting exemplars that should put in per grade, per level. So teachers can go to that at any time. You know, when they're wanting to learn something they forgot, they can go watch that tutorial for them too.
There's a survey you said going out to remote learning families.
Yeah, I went out last Friday. Yep.
When do those due?
Next Friday. This Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah.
Anything else on remote learning, or on continuing, what are we on? Return to learn?
That's what I had tonight, unless there's other things before.
Moving on to the Board Technology Committee meeting report. It was Carolyn, myself, and Lauren. Off like flies until it was just Ray and I. I just lost it.
A lot to cover. Has any more families picked up their hotspots?
Yep, we have had some additional ones pick theirs up. We've actually had some new families that have needed hotspots now. And it's some of those as well.
So that 46 now is more than?
Well, it's probably low 50s at this point, I guess.
So I'll try to update everyone. We had this server upgrade project. These are in order there. This one's on page 28 of your board packet. The server upgrade project. That was, so that was kind of what was on borrowed time, Ray?
Yep, exactly. That was something we kind of planned for last year and even a little bit the year before, but really for last year. And then that got tabled with everything COVID-wise. But we are definitely at the point where we've got to get moving.
Okay, now I don't understand servers, but apparently the ones we have would be out of date, which doesn't surprise me.
Yep.
And how long would a new one be? And how long is a new server good for? 4 years, 5 years before things change?
We try to get about 7.
So could what you have in mind to replace what we've got handle another school? If we had another elementary? I mean, I want to make sure we're planning enough for the future.
Yeah, anything we buy like that, we always try to future-proof that and make it expandable. So yeah, definitely. We don't buy something that just locks us in. Everything is expandable.
Okay.
The next section was the systems and data security. This is where it was the two-factor authentication. Sometimes, of course, that's a hassle for some individuals, but it's also a good thing. I think, I know we use it all the time in the business world and stuff, so I guess you just have to get used to it, so it's the new world.
I kind of mentioned this a little bit during the meeting as well, but I am looking at us, possibly going through a security audit of sorts, working with a company to see what exactly that would look like, and what all that would give us. And I'll also add that even just this last week, I'm aware of 2 districts around the area that have people trying to break into their user accounts. And so anything we can do to help prevent that, like 2-factor authentication, will be a good thing.
And at the bottom of page 2, oh, go ahead.
Great, well, and I don't know anything about technology, just going with that in mind. Will our students be the first ones to know if someone did get into their email account? Like, is there a certain thing that would come up in their email when they were trying to access it?
Not necessarily. Usually we get alerted.
You do first, okay.
So at the bottom it says student information system, enrollment, data management, analysis. So if you remember, we were always looking at that person that would, what was it, just load information in a data steward? A data analyst, yeah. So I think what's important for the board to know here is that if you remember, if we go back to when school was starting, something Ray pointed out to me was how many voicemails, and the person that works in that position for enrollment and getting things scanned in and always doing that, you know, I think it was up to 200 something voicemails left. And so, of course, I mean, yeah, maybe that's not a position that's out front and everybody gets to see, but it's a support position, and it's a position that's needed in our district because we're to serve our end users, our customers, our students, and our families. So Ray's trying to look at that position as well as maybe encompassing some other positions that we could maybe put together and form a position that is very much needed in our district to get things done for these people, so it's not backlogged and they're just constantly, and maybe some of it would be seasonal where they could adjust during different times of the year. So Ray's working on that and re-looking at that position, and then I'm really hoping that he'll, you know, if the administration proposes to move forward with something like that, the board would discuss it and see how we can make that happen. For the sole purpose of getting things done. And if you go down to the next page, 20, you can skip page 29, go down to 30, I think it is. That was up there on that whiteboard there when we came in. You'd had a meeting with his team, and they listed everything, like in a brainstorming session, everything they're doing new over the last couple of years that they weren't doing before. So these are all new things that they're having to do as a team and as a department, added on to what they were doing. And same amount of people, same amount of hours, but all these people are working on all this kind of stuff. So I guess to me, it shows, I think, us as a board, you know, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and a lot of these things are very time consuming. Just how long he was talking about, how long it just takes to upload and, you know, download from one thing and then upload it into our system, download, upload.
Yeah, my thoughts here are the same as they were with our teachers.
Yes.
Because of COVID, we have an overabundance of things for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. I firmly believe we have the money. We can hire some temporary help in this area, or contract with an agency to help, or whatever it is in the business. You know, I think we need to consider that. That's a long-term solution. But I do think we have to do something in the short. I would be in favor of doing something in the short term. You know, not everybody has to be permanent for the rest of their lives here.
Right.
We've got a temporary thing. If we can do anything, I'd sure like us to try.
Yeah, we actually do have a group that we work with, Robert Haft.
Yeah.
And we have had some temporary help.
We've got a guy in right now.
The last couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah, about the last week or so.
Okay.
Now, I was just, to clarify too, just a couple things. I mean, this is all stuff we are doing with respect to data in Power School that we weren't able to do prior. So this isn't everything. This is really just.
Oh, this is just specific.
This is just specific to stuff we're doing now with Power School and student data that we couldn't do 4 years ago. And when I look at, I kind of like to think of this in some ways as like as nice as a bread. Eventually you have a whole loaf, and it's got to be managed by.
Yeah, because we have a long-term problem too.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, the more, because, you know, we did receive money for COVID, even though we're using it and writing off for some things. There's money there to do these things.
Short term, we've got a gentleman in helping us with the stuff that I'll say is kind of low level stuff.
Yeah, that, I don't know.
That we've got to temp in for the stuff that's a little more complicated. It's really hard to just hire a temp and toss them into our environment as they go.
Because we've changed systems, now we can do all this, or we've upgraded. So really, we've now created where it's gonna be easier for teachers and stuff if we have somebody that can upload all this, correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
This is all stuff we're managing right now to make it easier on staff and teachers, and a lot of stuff, it's in the background that a lot of people, don't know that it's happening. They just know, oh, yeah, that's an improvement. Don't know how it happened, but it just did. I kind of went over it quick, but any questions on the E-rate money? I don't know if anybody's needed that or needs an explanation on the E-rate funds we received, which is quite a lot of money.
That was something that we can apply for, to get money, to be able to use towards different projects that they approve of. So it's a nice way to get some extra money.
Federally funded program, so anytime we can get 80.
It's like free money.
It's good to know.
I know you probably don't know this, but maybe. So what would a data analysis make?
I looked at that, we talked about that a year or so ago.
I know when we first brought it
I
up.
want to say we were looking around that 60 range.
That's what I thought was.
Yeah,
That's around that 60 range.
Yep. It's accurate.
And like I said, I do want to reevaluate that position, see if that's still the right position for us. We're taking a look at a lot of things, so we want to make sure that's the right fit. If that is what we do.
Any questions on anything from the IT committee meeting report? Okay. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the high school, middle school security camera project. This is where we have to have the public hearing. So let's see here, we could go ahead. Can we go ahead and open that then? Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for anyone to speak for or against the project. Nobody's here. Anybody? Email? Phone? Nobody's looking in the windows.
Nobody's here, nobody's reached out on that,
So we'll go ahead and close the meeting. And then the recommendation is,
Do we need to go ahead and vote on this then?
Yeah, we have the bid tab there for you and the recommendation letter from the engineer. And he is recommending that we accept the low bid there, which was Communication Innovators, $289,917. That's consistent with what we've been expecting. We've been talking that kind of 280 to 300 range throughout this whole conversation. So that is also a company that has done work for us, is familiar with us. So.
And they'll be able to work after hours, after school hours, or they're gonna be able to?
Some of it they'll be able to do during the school hours.
Maybe won't come in any COVID rules or anything?
No, I've asked them when they come in that it's consistent, the same people every time, so we're not getting a lot of different people coming in. Most of their work, they'll be, in hallways.
And out, not in the club, yeah.
this is the last of all of our public buildings that this would.
No, this just gets cameras in the interior of the high school and the middle school, exterior of the middle school. It adds some there and some on this building as well. A little bit down by the sports complex, but with this would not cover our elementaries. We will do those as separate projects.
I move we accept the low bid on this project.
Motion made by Ken, accept.
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Oh. Motion carries 7-0.
How long will this take?
Carolyn is actually joining our online feed. She was not hearing well at home. I got off the phone call. She did just vote yes, come following it with me. So,
On the consent agenda, okay.
yeah, on the security camera project, she votes yes.
What's the timeline, Ray, on this?
So the timeline is through like the end of December. Now, realistically, I'll be surprised if that's done by the end of December.
So maybe May.
Hopefully before May.
Before that,
but the plan, the timeline does state the end of December, but that'll all depend on the availability of products once that's ordered. As we know, anything coming from overseas,
Oh, yeah.
you never know when you're going to get it. So we'll shoot for the end of December and hopefully not wind up in May.
Next is the board finance committee meeting.
Right, meeting. we're gonna do some action. John is gonna explain this in the next item, the first thing we talked about. Rob, should we just have her go ahead and do that now?
Sure.
So you can go through it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the opportunity to refund some already refunded bonds. So to be able to do that twice in less than 5 years is interesting. I've never seen it before. So a year ago, if you're on the board, a year ago, I said, this is the last one we'll be able to do. Well, guess what? It's not. So the 2017 bonds, we can have we are looking at a savings of about 175,000. The trick will be, it's as we worked on the timeline, that's why some of the documents now are in the folder, but we did, the pieces on the agenda has the 4 pieces, there was only 1 document in there. They're in the folder now, if you ever need to go back in and look at the other documents that we have, the different engagement letters, the resolution to fix the date of the hearing, and the term sheet. Because they're working on this. The interesting part is now it's going to be after the election, which could change the way things happen. So a year ago, or I think it was just a year ago, that the legislature required that you have a public hearing now for sales tax refundings. So that's why there's some timing in here that has to happen, which hasn't happened in the past, hasn't had to happen in the past. So with that public hearing, that then pushes back because you have to have 14 days from that point till you sell. And that gets us to, the board would approve it on November 9th. The interesting thing also about this is that if we go through all this, we do the public hearing, everything happens like it should, and then it's not very favorable, if it looks like we're not gonna have a savings, we can put it on the shelf and wait and watch it, because it's a private placement, it doesn't have to go through, and it's sales tax dollars, doesn't have to go through another public hearing, because the board they've already approved that. You have approved that. Public has already been notified that we're looking at doing a savings. The one thing that we do have to do to make this timing work is the finance meeting this month, we'll have to have a special board meeting, so we need an extra person to come on October 20th at 7 o'clock to get that timing to work. So that is the sales tax piece. He also addressed a general obligation bond from 2016, which also was kind of a wow, because he said he's looking at percentage rates for that refunding of less than 1%. 0.88 is what he referred to for refunding bonds.
And that would be potentially this spring.
That would be this spring. Yeah. So those 2 pieces, the first one, the more imminent one, is our sales tax refunding that we need to look at. So.
And we need a motion this evening for something?
We will need 4 different motions, yeah. So it can be streamlined because I just shared with you what we know on that.
What page is the actual motions?
From the agenda, there was only the only one that was in there because of timing with the lawyers was the engagement letter from Piper. So that is on page
16.
Make a motion to approve the engagement letter from Piper Sandler.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Ben to approve the engagement letter by Piper Sandler, seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Make a motion to approve the engagement letter from Ayler's Law Firm.
Motion made by Ben.
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Motion for the resolution setting date for public hearing.
Which is
October 20th at 7 a.m.
October 20th at 7 a.m.
That's the public?
Yep.
Motion made by Ben.
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do we have anybody that can come to the extra one?
Because,
Okay. It's a quick, typically.
motion carries 7-0.
And I'll make a motion to approve the term sheet for distribution.
Motion made by Ben,
Second.
seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the second thing we dealt with in the committee meeting was just reviewing the Pebble and Save funds. And then I floated an idea. Now, neither of the other two members, Carolyn or Rob, shot me, but they didn't jump over the table saying, hey, this is something we've got to do. So I'm just floating it for people to think about. It'll take a while. There's a lot of things that we'd like to do. Take down the get rid of the old administration building. We need a support services building. We're probably going to need some technology things. There's been a great suggestion for redoing the entrance to the gymnasium, if I'm saying that correctly, and 3 or 4 other things, plus a lot of other things. The plans had been to do this all out of the SAVE funds if we could, which there's money in there, a lot. My caution is that I think it might be wise to use a small bond issue to do some of this, because with the demands of what's going on in technology and education and everything today, I don't want to commit SAVE funds so much in the future for some of these things. I just think we need some more money. I think it's something that can be possibly done without raising the tax rate if done right. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is the opportunity of when should you do something like this, and it's always cooperative with the other taxing agencies in the area. You can only do this 2 or 4 times a year. I can't remember what the dates are. They keep changing the state law. But we're at least 5 years away. You know, in 5 years, if growth goes like some people have projected, it might be time for a bond issue for a new grade school. And 2 years after that, you have a school. So that's 7 years out. So we've got that out there. But we do also have the city that's got a lot of projects it's talked about. They have nothing planned just yet. But they're talking about expanding the fire station and the police station and the city hall with the library. And they've got some other things they have to do too. But they're not ready to do anything just yet, you know. So if we would do something, do it next March, if we all think it's a good idea as we get to understand it better, the timing would be a good time. I just offer it to you like I did to them, and something to think about, and I'm going to talk with anybody about that.
As John has said, it's a great interest rate environment for that too. You really get a lot for your money right now with the interest rate.
So, I think it's interesting. And then we all went home.
There is a document in there that's just kind of a dashboard of different informational items from finance and enrollments and stuff. More for your information if you'd like to keep that handy somewhere. People ask you. It's a different look.
It's nice to read really fast.
It looks like, keep going.
It's got photographs on it.
Yeah.
Is it the
There you go.
blue and orange?
Yeah.
I'd be ready to speak to that at all. If you have questions, I'm happy to help.
Anybody, any questions on that?
To Ken's point, that was something we were going to explore, how soon we have to probably have a more formal conversation on steps moving forward with it.
Call us a pass-through.
Well, you know, the time, it depends on what you're gonna do. We need to get an architect involved on, number one, what we wanna do. And then get financing, and they would give us an estimate. We look at financing through this same company, Piper Sandler, to process that piece of it. So then you'd have to, once you've got that information, you'd go to a vote. It may take up to a year to get to that vote, depending on what we choose, what is chosen to do. You know?
The first date I saw was next March.
Yeah. So it's like this coming March, like the first Tuesday in March, yeah, of 2021.
Yeah. That's what it is. But elections have to be solved.
And the key thing is, like Mr. Brisden was saying, is be able to articulate what the money's for. I mean, that's what the voters want to know. And as John said, you have to have some idea. You work with an architect so you can get some estimate. And because there's really nothing worse than just saying, hey, we'd like this amount of money and we'll figure it out. I mean, you have to designate in the bond issue, you know, what you're using it for, and you have to spend it for those purposes. And people aren't going to respond well to just trust me, we've got a lot of needs, we'd like this much money.
Very well specified, yeah, pictures and all that.
Any other questions on this section?
That would probably be something that we could do at a work session too. Right? Let's look at what our goals are as a board and what are our priorities. Because I feel like we've been so consumed with the COVID stuff that in the meantime, we are still trying to run a school district that is having, you know, increased class sizes and everything else. So I think we're going to try to set a work session date tonight, aren't we? Maybe with the thinking of what are our ideas for that.
Okay. Facilities project update.
It's kind of quiet right now with the difference of our auditorium rigging improvement project. The northwest corner block is being repaired or worked on. However, now we have a structural beam issue that they're working on. When they loaded all the weight, and they didn't even have all the weight, when they loaded part of the weight on, all of a sudden things weren't lining up. They were within there was a half-inch variance, which is not a good thing, and even a half-inch, you know. So they released it all, they looked at it all, and now we're working on a remedy for that. Now we're working on trying to get this done before the play. They haven't been able to practice in there because nothing is set. I mean, we're not completed, so.
So is that an expense issue to the district or an expense issue to the contractor?
It's because it was our beam. That the old system was using that same beam, but I don't know that they ever noticed it, and I don't know if it was an issue at that time. It's too late to even.
The rigging system's using that beam.
Yeah, it's a structural beam.
So something's got to be fixed.
We're learning lots about that.
What about the block wall? In our last meeting, we were looking at that. Have they come up with a satisfactory resolution?
They have for the crack. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's being worked on. This is the wall where all the ropes were. Mm-hmm. It's that piece that they're looking at now. So more to come on that one. But that's the exciting thing like this. We have installed washers and dryers in all the buildings. Used to be, before this, that all the laundry went to the middle school and the high school. So they would put all the dirty laundry into vans and bring them back. And with everything going on, they decided that it's probably a better idea to keep everybody's stuff in the building. So.
All right. Mr. Sadoff, you had some information about IASB, or IASB.
But please let me know if you need us to register you for any of those sessions. Of course, IASB is virtual this year. You've probably seen by email. Typically, we get all or close to all of us there together, and we do some learning together. We pick different breakout sessions and things. This year it's online, and some of the times are a little bit different too. There is a pre-conference session November 10th, 5:30 to 8 p.m. on Leading for Equity. November 17th, I believe you're still our delegate assembly guy, right? 5:45 p.m. November 17th, and that's the annual meeting, the delegate assembly. That would be just Ken. And then what would have been kind of the main day now is going to be on November 18th, 1 p.m. till 7:15 p.m. And the kind of the keynote is Homeless to Harvard, There's a lady, and I did not write down her name, I should have. I know there's a book, and I believe there's a movie made about her too. Probably would be a pretty inspiring story. Now, I know some of you in the past, you've taken days off work or whatever, and these are different times. I'm getting a text from Carolyn, question here. Okay, different topics. So I guess I just need to know if maybe you need to check your calendars and let me know that we can handle the registration online for you if any of those days work. If you want to go to the pre-conference, the conference, or the pre-conference or conference virtually. Saturday the 18th. If you know already,
Just
let me know.
realized
If you
the
don't,
18th of
shoot me an
Friday
email.
night, the 7:15.
Okay.
Is that, I probably didn't really think about
No.
that. Conference on a Friday night?
I mean, the 18th is a Wednesday.
Oh, am I looking at?
You might be looking at October. This is November. The conference is.
Okay. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, it is correct. 18th. He's looking at the calendar.
I was looking at December,
Yeah,
sorry.
December
Yes.
18th is a Wednesday,
I was like-
and the 10th is a Tuesday, the Tuesday before, so. Why don't you just shoot me an email if you want us to register you for anything?
So since we're on this whole topic.
You're good on the 17th, Ken, for the delegate assembly?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll wait and see if you tell me either of those other days before we register you, and we'll register you all at once. Okay. Now with the calendar.
On this topic, like a workshop.
Yep.
7 of us.
Work session. We have, in the past, we've kind of used Monday nights because people kind of keep Monday free, but we can do whatever works for the board. So.
Mondays are good.
And in October, our meetings are the 12th and 26th,
Monday in between.
so that'd be fine by me.
When's basketball start?
They wouldn't be in the game
Does it have to be
yet.
the end of November, right? Or end of
Yeah,
October?
October,
Okay.
yeah.
October's good.
That's actually probably a little bit of a almost in between season time.
Yeah,
thing.
it should be.
October 19th, we want to plan on that?
Sure.
Okay.
5:30?
Yeah, 5:30? Okay. Work session, can you put that in the minutes too, John, and we'll get it on the board calendar. October 19th, work session, 5:30 PM.
Just like other times are. Just meet here.
Yeah, we know we can distance in here, so.
Okay. And the board calendar, anything different for anyone?
We'll have the board, the special board meeting on the 20th. That happened after all this was put in.
That's good.
19th is good for Carolyn too.
Anything else from anyone? Calendar or the board agenda?
Somebody can be the star of the show here, move to adjourn.
Go, it's Ken's. Ken does it every time.
We're gonna sit here.
It's your legacy.
Then motion to adjourn. No, Donna, did you second it?
I think Donna seconded it.
Yeah, seconded by Donna. Everyone in favor?
Say aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned.
Have you quit?
We're offline.
Okay, hey, I didn't,